SUSVARA unveiled on more affordable equipment. Welcome back to Convince Me Audio. I'm your host, Koji. The previous two episodes of this mini-series that we've put together covered the unboxing of the SUSVARA unveiled, and also the first impressions when it came to its technicality and sound characteristics on the Summit of Summit tier flagship setups, the Ideon Epsilon DAC, Zahl HM1, and all the rest of that reference system. There were a few comments in the comment section, rightly so, that, hey, we can't relate to this. We want to know how it performs on things such as these, as you can see, like the Cayin HA2A, the HA2A from Cayin, the IDAC, the firm stack, etc. So I've just dragged them off of the desks to have a chat with you. Shall we begin? Quick summary. SUSVARA unveiled comfort is the same as the first one. There's absolutely no difference. Sonic characteristics, when it's pushed to its absolute limits, the full in-depth review will cover this, but it's better than the original, in quotes, in every area by a very small margin, with a couple of caveats. We will discuss that in the full review, because these types of units will not indicate those very well. It's just the nature of the beast. They are extremely scalable, but fortunately, they do not start at such a high threshold like the original. The SUSVARA unveiled sounds excellent on a stack like this. So we're going to begin with the Cayin HA2A and IDAC. The IDAC is a tube-based DAC. I think the tube is set in the output stage. The full review will be coming and is still very new, so we are still kind of twiddling about with it. And this is the HA2A. And my freaking goodness, Cayin, their transformer technology has gone leaps and bounds since the HA6A I reviewed here and the HA300 Mark IIs. I think that followed afterwards, so it'll be in the description down below somewhere. This little tiny thing, I think, comes in around $1,200. I put all the prices down below. I don't quite know, because obviously it's like brand new units come into the office. In terms of me looking at it, it's been here for quite a while. I've put 1,000 hours on the tubes, both on the DAC and on the amplifier itself, so that it'll be ready when it's fully reviewed. Coming back to the SUSVARA unveiled, on this setup, the SUSVARA unveiled, if you are budget conscious and you're putting your kidney and a bit of your manhood and everything else on eBay to actually try and obtain one of these freaking things for $8,000, I do recommend shopping around for that, or in regards to that and every other audio product. Don't just take the first one at face value. Is the fact that this does an incredible job on lower end equipment. Bass response and weight and tonal density and impact was the biggest problem of OG SUSVARAs, let alone us talking about its caliber of bass response, etc., because that changed with equipment to equipment, such as the stuff we have over there, like the Levante, the Poseidon, the Ideon, and everything else. But on low-end equipment, such as a Topping A90, for example, remember, I originally reviewed the original HIFIMAN SUSVARAs with the Topping A90. It's hilarious that this little system is back here, where the Cyan 2 has replaced the Spring 2 Extreme Edition. They've literally ripped out that board, changed it a little bit, give it a small power supply, put it in a small chassis, and it's basically that. And that was a flagship, a DAC back in its day. Is absolutely insane for $1,500, and the performance on that unit is reference, excellent, good punch, good sub-bass extension, nice detail retrieval. It doesn't mess with the timbre too much because you're using an R2R DAC from HoloAudio, this Cyan 2. It cuts away some of the dryness and analytical harshness of the Topping A90. It's not overly fatiguing. The SUSVARA unveiled treble region is something I'm having a little bit of a difficulty with because it's skewed compared to the OG. The OG had a rise in the upper treble This one has it in the lower treble. Obviously the mid-range has been perfectly fixed on the SUSVARA Unveiled. There's a dip in the 1.2 kilohertz region where this has been filled out. The upper mid-range has been filled out on the SUSVARA Unveiled, where you get a more reference, beautiful sounding mid-range now. But with the added addition of the treble region, this actually makes the headphone brighter. So I would consider SUSVARA Unveiled neutral bright, where the original was neutral dark. But in comparison with other headphones, original SUSVARA was neutral bright. So bear that in mind. This does remind me of the HD800S sort of tonality, that sort of tuning, but fortunately not with those big problems that that headphone has. It's easier to drive. It's easier to get louder. It's easier to get a good bass response. It's easier to get a good punch. The articulation of the stage where every element of image everywhere, even on lower end equipment, though it's a bit insulting to call these equipment low end, because this is still gonna set you back 2,500, this is still gonna set you back 1,500. I mean, it just depends on your budget, right? Let me just show you something just for a laugh. We are testing in the office. This is an interconnect. This is an interconnect. We are testing on the reference system right now. That interconnect is $50,000. I thought so too. But this will actually answer a lot of questions about cables, high-end cables, and beyond a certain point, what is actually happening. Is the oil in the snake oil bottle very glossy? Or is it actually a thing? Does it matter if your chain is a low category or high category? That can of worms video will be coming at some point, and I'm sure the comment section is going to be a great deal of fun. I've been testing cables for the last 24 months, and as a side tangent, I do not release cable reviews, but it'll be more of a cable documentary, because there is so much stuff to unpack and unravel where the systems begin and end. $50,000. You can buy a pair of Wilson speakers for that. Yes, I would consider this as a neutral bright headphone versus the original SUSVARAs, which would be neutral dark, but only in comparison to each other, not in comparison to other headphones. For me, SUSVARA has always been leaning in towards the slightly neutral bright sounding headphone. The timbre you do not really lose too much out on these lower end equipment. It actually sounds pretty freaking decent. Normally where, for example, you put OG SUSVARAs on a system like this or this one versus say a HIFIMAN ARIA Organic or HE1000 SE, the HIFIMAN SUSVARA Original would probably sound like 1% better, 2% better, and that's why there are so many confusing reviews on YouTube. SUSVARA doesn't have enough bass, SUSVARA is barely any better than this. It's because of your equipment. That's all it's going to show. But that reference system over there is $180,000 right now. I'm pretty sure those stupid cables are taking a very large chunk of that amount, but it's a system we're testing right now. It's a whole different experience. It's like HE1 but better. It's like Aperio but better in most areas. So that is not going to be the same experience as obviously these, but who cares about that? Who of us can afford that kind of system to run regularly personally, right? We're talking about putting all of our hard-earned cash in one item. And that for now, in this comment section and this review and this analysis, is the SUSVARA Unveiled. So, all right, you've bought this. You're looking at your desk, there's nothing on it. Can something like this or this drive it? And the answer is yes, and very well, unlike the original. So I have no qualms now about saying, if you want to live with this headphone, I don't think HIFIMAN are going to release another edition of it for the next 5 or 6 years. I could be wrong, but judging by history, I don't think so. Maybe they might change the design a little bit, I don't know. But quality, sound quality wise, I very much doubt it, because this is marginally better than the original, and that came out 7 years ago. And I'm telling you, it's marginally better. It's not exponentially better. It's better in every area, but by a very small amount. And there are some issues which we will discuss in a minute too. But yes, on the top in A90 or something equivalent, I would definitely recommend a higher caliber DAC. I wouldn't recommend some of the top-end stuff or SMSL stuff, which I've tried, just sounds bad. Something like the Cyan 2 for me, this is a $3,000 DAC at 1100 right now. This is going up against a Wandler, toe to toe. If you set aside the functionality and only talk about sound, this is doing the opposite of Wandler in a different category. This is more organic, more rich, more texture rich, and it's definitely colored, more mid-range centric. And that helps the A90, which is dry, reference, clinical, a bit bland and meh. So it really helps with that. And originally I used to use the Burr Brown DAC from HDVD 820 from yonks ago, and it really did work well. But I did bypass the pot originally with the gold point step attenuator. No need to do such things anymore for me because of the reference system and stuff, but that is an option to bypass the pot. But honestly, this system here, I would personally go for this one. The HA2A is introducing tubes to those who have never played about with tubes. You don't need to worry about changing the tubes. I don't think I mean you can, but you probably need adapters and stuff. It looks like it's not rollable. This is just designed for people who are new to the hobby and just want something simple and that works. And it really sounds rich. Very, very present sound very present, very organic. Excellent sub-bass extension, excellent mid-bass punch. Good imaging, good separation, listening to Hans Zimmer, listening to film scores, listening to Infected Mushroom. And incidentally, this is tubes, and I don't know what magic they're doing with the transformers, but electronic music for me, EDM, was pretty decent on it. But I do like to use the tube mode with the tube amp itself. I don't like taking the DAC into reference non-tube mode because it sounds a bit sharp to my ears. It just doesn't sound as organic, and it just sounds a bit bland. It's definitely not on the levels of Cyan 2 for without tube implementation in itself. You press a button on the front and it goes to solid state. I don't like it like that. I don't think it's on the caliber of Cyan 2. I think it's not even on the caliber of Diablo 2. But with the tube mode, it does sort of rival the Cyan 2, but in a different category, in a different way. I would still say Cyan 2 is far more technical, higher resolution. This is a bit more tube, and more laid back, far more softer, but organic. And yet it has weight. That's what surprises me. So, for this quick summary, which seems to have lasted 30 minutes, I wouldn't worry if you have the funds to buy unveiled, these Susvaras, and you have very low-end equipment because you're planning to put all your money in the headphones and buy equipment later. This will grow with you, and it exponentially jumps in performance. But its lower threshold for sounding good is far, far lower than the original Susvaras, because where that would need an entire all stack at $7,000, or the Bliss stack and May and HoloAudio gear, which is $13,000 together, something like that. I mean, plus 8, that's 21 grand. That's a different level of insanity, right? But if you do want this headphone and you put in all your money towards it, you can do very good things with this. It surprised me how well the CMA18 portable drove it, sitting on the couch. Not exponentially loudly, I would say. I would say around 75 dB, you're more than comfortable, but that's it. But honestly, the performance, the original Susvaras would have killed it. Luxury and Precision P6 Pro, with this, I use on a regular basis. It sounds better than OG Susvaras on the Ferrum stack. This has a very low bar for sounding good, and that is a win. I did mention that I want to talk about some problems we've been having. I did put on Facebook as well. The first unit we received, for some reason, listening to Infected Mushroom, died. The driver died. And I've still not received a confirmation from the lab and from Dr. Fang what the problem was. I still don't know. I was listening at 81 to 83 dB and the driver just went ka-clunk. I've not had any problems with this one. This one is okay. So it could be a QC issue for the first batch. I think originally at Munich, they told us they were going to release in August. And then they released it in June because of Shanghai. And I'm just wondering if it was just rushed a little bit. I don't know. I think it was rushed a little bit because headphones shouldn't do that, not at 83 dB. And I could have just been very, very unlucky. I don't know. How does the SUSVARA Unveiled sound on low-end equipment? Far, far better than the original. Far easier to drive, far easier to get into, far more expensive price-wise, but the price will, I'm sure, with dealers and stuff come down at some point, and there'll be used ones on the market. People like to move on very quickly. But there definitely is a good place for this headphone because not only is it a summit tier headphone of summit tiers, absolute top end where Planars are concerned, it is drivable nicely on low end equipment. This will be the last episode of this mini series until the full review, and the full review will cover the summit of summit tier equipment such as the WA33 Elite, Red October, Viva 845 if we can get that thing in, AIC10, the Levante, the Poseidon, the Ideon Epsilon, the Wavedream Signature, hopefully the Wavedream reference when it comes in, and everything else. Super flagship DACs like the Luxury and Precision P6 Pro, etc. And if you want a full in-depth review for the lower end equipment such as HM1 and working all our way down, and when I say lower end equipment, I only mean in comparison to a Levante and 645 and AIC10 and things like that, let me know in the comment section, because I think otherwise the review will be far too long. Maybe we should make a 3-part full in-depth review of lower end equipment, middle tier equipment, and the what are you thinking level of equipment. This is something I'm going to throw in the community. You let me know what you want and I'll provide as much as I can. And if you have any questions and you want to ask me personally, consider joining Patreon, where you can ask me all these questions on Telegram, through the private Telegram chat over at CMA Audio Lounge. Otherwise, share, like, and I'll see you in the comment section down below. Peace.